I just don't know when the NRL is going to learn.
Our game is finished.
I have no idea what the hell the judges are doing, and this is what happens all the time in boxing.
I'm done with this sport. That's the last you said to me. Sorry. That.
G'day everyone, welcome to Sports Ranting. We're a man down today. Feel better, Jimmy. But Mertz, we had some terrible NRL calls over the weekend.
Yeah, it's a game that keeps shooting itself in the foot. On Thursday night, we had a Tom Trbojevic falling onto Jesse Bromwich's hand, and that leading to a penalty which almost changed the game.
Our game is finished. No, it is finished.
Luckily for the Dolphins, it didn't. And then over on Saturday, we had the ridiculous call on Harry Grant getting sin-binned for the most incidental leg touch I've ever seen.
It's a dangerous action that goes through it. And the bend. Chemical. That look from Harry Grant tells you everything you need to know.
I just don't know when the NRL is going to learn. It keeps bowing to a pressure that's not even there. We had a situation earlier in the year with the Harry Grant and the leg touch where Lachlan Ilias broke his leg, and it has been something the NRL has been cracking down on in the past. But I don't recall a sin bin for that kind of action, and they're starting to get really ridiculously finicky with it, because earlier in the year there was a game that led to the Warriors. Sean Johnson went for a field goal and was touched by Hamoli Olakawatu, I think, from Manly, and led to a penalty which drew them level and ended up in a draw. I just don't know where the game's going with this type of stuff. It's bad for fans because no one's calling for it. No, the head contact on Tom Trbojevic was the most incidental thing I have seen on a footy field.
I bet you that bloke who made that decision never stepped onto a football field.
It reminded me that, people were having a go at the referee and the bunker, but I think it's more about the directives that they've been given, because the guy in the bunker was like that droopy dog. He was like, the challenge is successful. I think you could see that he didn't even want to give it. He knew how incidental the contact was, but by the letter of the law, what he's been told to rule, if there's contact to the face, you have to call it. But we're not taking into account some judgment about intent or impact, or, if we've got a situation where Tommy Turbo is laughing and doesn't have a mark on his face.
Trbojevic stood up after that and went to play the ball and knocked it on. So they were going for a challenge just as a Hail Mary, because there was 7 minutes left. They were down. He didn't think it was going to happen.
Why can't we put the guy on report if we think it's bad enough, and then let it be adjudicated that way in the cold light of day?
You can have a look at that from the AFL side of things. I've seen people going in for smothers and they come down on the leg. All incidental, all accidental, and broken legs. It just happens on a footy field. But if that's the case, if that's what we're doing, we're drawing a line in the sand where we're like, okay, there is no contact allowed on the kicker, then the fifth tackle, there is going to be no pressure on the kicker because the players can't put any pressure on the kicker.
AFL's a good example as well, because it's probably 10, 15 years ago now, they just said, we're protecting the head. You can't touch the head. Of course, it led to a whole bunch of players learning how to duck, to draw that contact. Joel Selwood was probably the master at that. But then it goes the other way, where Jeremy Cameron on the weekend got his head slammed into the turf. He was in a bad way. He waved off the runner. He said, no, I'm staying out, because there was 5 minutes left in a close game. They're trying to do this huge comeback. They're about a goal down. And then 24 hours later, he's in concussion protocols and he's missing this week's game. So he was clearly concussed at the time. So we've got both sides of the coin, where it's too soft, and then we've got a guy who's not even, letting the doctors or the team know that he's actually been concussed. So it's complicated. It's not easy for any of the officiating and whatever, but in those NRL examples, we've just gone far too far.
Fighting out of the blue corner! Pedro! Patriots!
We had a hell of a day of boxing yesterday in Perth. headlined by George Kambosos with Lomachenko. Kambosos got his ass handed to him, but he didn't have anywhere near the worst day on Sunday.
We start with Andrew Maloney because that was an absolute robbery. I watched the fight back this morning because I could not believe my eyes yesterday, and I was in a quite emotional state after watching it because it happens far too often that the judges get it wrong. But I watched it again this morning with fairly clear eyes, and I had it scored 9-3 to Maloney. I have no idea what the hell the judges are doing, and this is what happens all the time in boxing. The judging is just abysmal. There's too many variables. They just get it wrong.
You know, Maloney, you can see how he feels. He quits on the spot.
But I'm done with this sport. That's the last you said to me. I want to thank my sponsors for backing me over the years because I'm retired. I'm out. I love you all, but sorry, that.
They were talking about a solution. I think it was the Haney and Garcia fight. I think it was Top Rank at the time. Were saying that it's so like they're expecting it to be so controversial. They want to have 9 judges, and then they'll average the score out over the 9 judges. So it's a 5-4 you have to win. Sean Porter actually said some really interesting things about, you look at the judges, they're not boxers. They're not former boxers. They're people who are trained to be judges. You look at an outside person running the technology or scoring or whatever, you see how many times they get it wrong. They don't know what they're looking for. Maybe it is just you need to have former trainers, former fighters, unaffiliated, who are sitting there and actually scoring the fight.
On the same card, on the same day, we had what I think was a worse situation than a judge's scorecard, which is the ring announcer declaring the wrong winner.
Still, the WBA World Champion.
Even when he has to fix that, when he realizes that there's been a mistake, he doesn't go, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, can we have the fighters back? There's been a mistake, or try to give us some context. He just calls them back like nothing's even happened.
Fighting out of the blue corner.
I jumped in to listen to some of the American commentators, not just the Australian ones, but the ESPN guys calling it, and they were just absolutely up in arms.
What are we doing? And we said it before in the first fight that he read the scores incorrectly of the normal standard protocol of how you read scores, and then he just did that. Oh my goodness. What are we doing? What are we doing?
The eyes of the boxing world was on this event because it was a worldwide event. It had world-class fighters that people know, and had a lot of people talking about it in the US and Europe and whatever with the Lomachenko angle because he's so well known. To me, this was the worst moment of the day.
And then I want to talk a bit about Kambosos as well, because as much as he lost and he was completely outclassed by Lomachenko, who's just absolute class. You can't discount the bloke fighting the absolute best. Like he doesn't take a backward step against anyone, and even when he's completely outclassed, like he was yesterday. And I mean, the guy went down on his sword, didn't he?
We're going to jump into some hoops now. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Sort of good and bad. The OKC Thunder, youngest team to ever finish number 1 seed in a conference, which they did in the West. Incredible finish to the season. They're now 2-1 down in their second round series with Dallas. And people are starting to question Josh Giddey, our Aussie star, sadly. His minutes are way down. He's literally averaging half the minutes in the second round that he did in the first round against New Orleans. The production is not there. There were some pretty cruel comparisons to Ben Simmons yesterday, but that was purely in a shooting side of things. Ben Simmons refuses to shoot. Josh Giddey just can't shoot consistently, but he has improved a little bit. But there's calls for him to be traded. I personally don't think he should be traded. Mertz, where do you see the situation with the Aussie at the moment?
I'd love to see him traded. I'd love to see him traded to a team that needs him, because the bloke is an absolute elite passer. I think he gets hot with his shooting, but he can often be quite cold. And I think that he just needs that. I think he needs the responsibility of carrying the team. And for those first couple of years that he came into the NBA, he looked passing wise was fantastic, and it was him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that were just like the only people they had. But now they have so many options that OKC are a legitimate threat to the NBA, and they're going to keep adding pieces. But I'd just love to see him at a team where he can, like, it's really his team. Even from a Boomer's point of view, it'd be great to see him really take control of a team and have those weapons around him, because then that's what Australia really needs when we get to Olympics and World Championships and stuff like that. We need guys who can shoot like Paddy Mills when he gets a green and gold jersey on, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the Thunder are stacked, and I think it's Sam Presti, their GM, who's just put together an incredible team, and he just keeps nailing these draft picks. I want him to stay where he is for now. I certainly don't think he's ready to lead a team. I think he's got a lot of support where he is. He started every single game that he's played in his 3 years in the NBA. So even when he's gone through slumps, even when he's had off-court issues that became very high profile this year, when he was cleared of all the allegations there was an NBA investigation, a police investigation. All of that had an impact on his play. They kept starting him. I think the biggest thing for me is the kid's 21. He doesn't turn 22 until October. He needs to spend every waking minute of the off season, even now, but obviously when he can just devote himself to it, to just shooting 3-pointers. It's become such a critical part of the game now. He had back-to-back games against the Pelicans. He shot 4 of 7 and 4 of 6. And that's world class, but that's only 2 games. Since then, he's only taken 7 threes in 3 games against the Mavericks, and he's hit 1 of them.
Eric Gordon shoots with range, can attack a closeout.
At a team that needs a lot of three-point shooting. Speaking of strength for that shooting, left him all alone.
Well, this is interesting. Let's watch Josh Giddey and how open he is. And in his defense, he's better with the ball, but you play with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So look where Nurk is.
And
they're leaving him demand the ball.
They're leaving him wide open, which makes him a liability because then they've got an extra guy they can double team Shai or whoever's out there on defense. He just needs to improve that shot. And I think he's in a good situation for now. There could be a point where he can actually run a team. But I think he's in a reasonable point now. The problem they're going to have is that they won't be able to keep them all anyway because they're going to all need too much money. So that's part.
But see, this is why Josh will have to go at some point. If you're playing him 13 minutes, it's showing you. And the coaches continually coming out and going, oh, Josh is doing what we need him to do and everything like that. But it shows the amount of respect that they have when they're not putting him on down the stretch. He's playing 13 minutes and scoring, 9 points? Well, he's not necessarily he's not necessarily a point scorer for you. Like, he'll score points and he'll score 15, 20, and he's shown he can score 30 and whatnot in the past. But he's like the person that you kind of build the team around. But they've got SGA, who's dominating, was in the MVP, one of the MVP candidates. He was way up there. So he's going to demand the ball for so much longer. And I think when you say he might not be ready to run a team, yeah, he might not be. But if you put him into a team it's rebuilding or something like that, he might be the piece that you build around. And I often think that he might not be ready now, but you've got to get him. You've got to give someone like that a chance to go, okay, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do something special. Because then if he needs to increase his production with points and knowing when to score points and knowing when to set someone else up, he'll really develop that the longer he goes. But they just don't respect him. It's clear that they're not respecting what he can bring to the game. And maybe he's just not delivering what they actually need him to deliver.
Yeah, I think not respecting him is pretty damn harsh for a guy that they start in every game. But I mean, I think part of it's
yeah. I mean, 2 years ago they had no players, and last year they had Chet signed, but he did a foot injury, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he sat out the whole year. So this
he sat out the whole year. So they've had 2 years where he's not really had that much, and they've started not that much around him. And then this year, obviously, they put together a really good team, and Chet's as good as everyone hoped to be.
Yeah, but part of the problem is we're focusing on this series right now. So against the Pelicans, which was a sweep, he averaged 26.5 minutes a game. And then in the 3 games so far in this series, he's averaged half that. He's averaged 13 minutes a game against a team that's got Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in the backcourt. It's needs must. Maybe his minutes go up in the next round if they're able to get through. We'll see how we go. But I think they do respect him. They picked him number 6 in the draft, which no one thought he was going to go that high. If he can just work on that outside shot, he completely changes his threat that he offers on the court. because his vision is so good, his passing is so good. But if you've got Shea, who's going to have the ball in his hands most of the time, and Giddey's off on the wing, if they collapse on him, now he can drive, he can kick, he can do a lot of the creative stuff that he's really known for. I guess I'm just saying I don't want to give up on the process so far, yet that they're trying to build there. They've got the nucleus of a championship team. They may well have that without Josh Giddey, and they may well be able to get some other pieces that maybe fit slightly better for them. But and they've had a Jalen Williams who's emerged, who's an absolute gun as well. He was a bit of a steal in the draft. They've got a lot of talent, and they've actually got a lot of shooters. They're pretty well stacked in most positions. They probably need a little bit more size in some departments, but he offers something.
Well, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about trading him for a center.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I haven't actually seen much coming out of them. They're keeping a pretty tight lid on it. It's everybody around them saying we need to trade this guy. But if he was hitting 40% from three right now, he'd be playing more than 13 minutes a game, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. So he needs to improve that outside shot.
No. Look, it becomes a problem when they're not playing him as much in these important games. And I get what you're saying. Like, he just might not be suited to this series, and he might be better suited to the next series. But I think when you have a team that you put together and you're wanting to fire, and even if they don't necessarily match up against the team that you're playing against, you want to have your best players out on the court. And I'm thinking at the moment that they're not thinking that Josh Giddey is among their best five.
Yeah, it's been up and down. I've watched a lot of games during the season, and there was a stretch where he was just getting benched in crunch time, which was really hard to see. And then he had a really strong stretch where he was finishing games. And now it's, obviously it's tailed off again in this Maverick series. But
also he was taking off when SGA was on the sidelines. That's when he was getting most of his, scoring quite decent numbers because he was filling a gap.
Have the ball in his hands a hell of a lot.
Yeah, that helps.
When you don't have an MVP candidate out there. And look, I get the Boomers point as well, but he's in a pretty good place to contribute well for the Boomers. And basically, it's going to be his team. I mean, Paddy's just hanging on. We all love Paddy, but he's at the end of his career. We know that he changes when he puts the green and gold on, but this will be Josh Giddey's team with a few others.
It will be Josh Giddey's team.
And but I think whether he's playing 13 minutes in the playoffs or 25, he's still going to lead the Boomers. I still think he's still in that environment where he's improving, and it's just that jump shot. He's got to work on that jumper.
Well, for the Boomers, I just want to see him he'll take control of the team. He will direct the team. He'll lead the team around. He'll everything will go through Josh Giddey. But where I think the Boomers are going to struggle is scoring points. If unless Paddy scores 40 points, we don't win a bronze medal in Tokyo.
No, actually, I think we need to be happy we got that bronze, which was the breakthrough, finally, first major medal for the men's program, because the rest of the world is just so damn good. And you're right, we don't have that 25-point scorer every game that you need, apart from Paddy, and we'll see how much he can get out of his body. But none of these guys, Exum and Ingles is towards the end. Some of the big guys, we don't have that dominant guy with the inside-outside game and whatever. So we'll see how it goes.
This is the thing. So Canada will have SGA, and America are just so stacked that it's may as well.
Canada have got now. Jamal Murray. They've got the Wiggins. Yeah. They've got all sorts of people. All these guys, like Serbia, are absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
And we've got a very difficult group as well. Yeah, it's going to be tough for the old Boomers.
But this is the problem. I'd love to see and Josh Giddey was the one I thought was going to be, and that's why I'd like to see him actually running a team by himself, or not by himself, but obviously have pieces around him. But it's why I'd like to see him running a team, because I genuinely think that he can be one of those elite players, especially if he can get the shooting.
He's shown us that triple-double threat, which you love, because he can get boards, he can get assists, but all of that is right.
And he's not stat padding necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man, that's good stuff, mate. I think we'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. That was Sports Ranting.